Awesome. And thank you for checking out our latest episode of the Winter Garden Yoga podcast. Today I have a good friend of mine going to speak with us today. Her name is Alison. She's an author. She's a mother of three. She's an entrepreneur. She owns a studio out in Canada. Before I give away too much, Alison, will you please tell the folks who you are, where you've been, and where you're going?
Certainly. So I am a busy mom, like you said, of three very, very energetic boys. I've been in the fitness industry now for 21 years. I started at a gym at the front desk and literally have done everything from there all the way up till now, owning a studio with my husband. And we also run an online business that helps busy moms look and feel their very best. So where am I going? I'm hoping to impact our goal is to impact 100,000 lives in the next year with the power of fitness and healthy living.
Excellent. So one reason why I wanted to have you on the podcast is we're real friends in real life, but we're also Facebook friends. And
Yes.
I see your messaging all the time, just about being positive, be true to who you are. It doesn't matter what you look like. This doesn't matter. What matters is putting out the effort. Now, can we play devil's advocate for a little bit?
Sure.
Do you mind? Okay.
Not at all.
Okay. So devil's advocate, we see a Facebook post. Here's a pretty, petite, blonde girl, big smile. And she's telling me, maybe not the petite, pretty blonde girl, like it doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter how much weight you're lifting or what you do. What matters is you put out the effort. How do you respond to people who say, well, that's easy for you to say because you're already the petite, pretty blonde girl? How do you respond to stuff like that?
I love stuff like that because I was not always that. So, or at least I didn't always believe that I was beautiful and strong and all of those things. So the messaging is that we all are. But if we rewind significantly into my past, I was overweight, at least 20 pounds, very unhealthy, hated the way I looked, hated the way I felt, disliked literally everything about me. When I was very young, I was told the cowlick in my hair was not very pretty, and that was like the first message that sent to me that like something isn't beautiful about you. I remember the orthodontist telling me my smile needed to be fixed because it wasn't perfect. It was too gummy, so it needed to be fixed. So actually they suggested surgery that would sever a nerve here, and there was a risk I would never smile again.
Wow.
So right away, like my 16-year-old self is getting messages like something isn't perfect about you. Something's not beautiful. Actually, something's ugly. And I internalized all of that. So I started to literally, you'll see like there's pictures when I look back where I wasn't smiling. I was close-mouthed, avoiding smiling because I hated my smile so much. I was told the bump on my nose was not attractive, so I literally looked into surgery as a young teenage girl. How can I get rid of this? How can I fix it to be more beautiful? And so I had a place of self-growth that needed to happen because I was so self-deprecating and just self-loathing, disliked everything about me. So I like to say, I have been there. I know what it's like. No matter what shape or size you are, I absolutely know what it's like to not love yourself. But I also know that when you get to a place of loving yourself, you truly are beautiful, and that beauty comes from the inside out. And it really doesn't matter what you look like on the outside, because when you love yourself on the inside, you are going to radiate that energy.
So how would someone, and I know, disclaimer, you are not a psychologist or a psychiatrist. This shouldn't be considered medical advice. Please do not interpret it as medical advice. Disclaimer. But what were the steps, or what was a step that got you to the point where you started to realize, the bump on my nose doesn't matter?
Great question. So I went through a process for many years while I was in the fitness industry. As soon as I became a personal trainer, all of the self-esteem issues I already had were heightened because now I'm a personal trainer and I should look a certain way. And so I got into this world of fitness competitions and restricting calories and over-exercising to get my body to look a certain way. Over-exercising because I hated my body, not coming from a place of love. And every time I got off the stage, there was this obviously subjective judging comparison. It was like a comparison thing, like you're not as pretty or good looking or as muscular or lean as this person, and so you place here. And I always felt even worse about myself every time I got off the stage. And yet I continued this cycle for many, many competitions. And I had this kind of aha moment when my sister Trisha invited me to come to cheer her on across the finish line of her triathlon. And when she crossed the finish line, she did not care what she looked like, and she was happier than I've ever seen anyone. And I realized, you know, she was not happy because she looked a certain way. She was happy because she felt a certain way. She was happy because her body did something pretty cool, and she had trained so hard for it and really worked hard to get there. And so I had this kind of aha moment as I left the triathlon, like, I don't feel that way when I get off a stage. I feel the opposite of that way. And so I had always wanted, even just from very young, I wanted to run a marathon. I loved to run. But my big, hairy, audacious goal was I want to run a marathon. And I kind of put it in the back of my mind, and the low self-esteem that I had, it was like, oh, that will never happen. You will never do that. But I decided on that day, I'm going to go and do it. I'm just going to go and do it. I'm going to stop doing fitness competitions. I'm going to work towards something else because I saw her happiness and I saw that it was not associated with her looks. And so I set out and I accomplished that marathon. And in the process of training, I took a lot of sports nutrition courses because I realized I need to fuel my body, not restrict it, in order for it to do this task. And so I got educated and I learned more. And with every completed training run, I had this sense of confidence come over me that I never got from anything before. And I started to love the very legs that I hated my whole life. People would tell me when I was younger that my legs looked like tree trunks, and I believed what they said. And I had this like despising for my legs. I wouldn't wear shorts in high school. I wouldn't wear like dresses or anything. I covered them up as much as I could. And so as soon as I crossed the finish line of that marathon, I looked down at my legs. I remember thinking, yeah, but they're stinking strong. They're fast. They just carried me 42 kilometers. I'm going to start to love them. So when I work with my clients and I work with anybody who is coming from a place of self-hatred, I always say, okay, but let's focus on what our body is doing for us. What is it doing? How is it strong? How is it amazing? Instead of always focusing on what it is not, let's celebrate what it is, what it already is. And so that for me was like the pivotal life-changing moment. I got into racing, I got into biking, doing duathlons. I started to win them. And I realized, you know, like the legs that I hated for so long were actually really fast. And in a competition setting, they win races. And so I need to start appreciating them way more than I ever have. And so that was really step one. And I think then it just layered after that. It layered, and I started to be more aware of my self-talk. I started to realize that I was constantly putting myself down. And so I changed, and I started to constantly be bringing myself up. Every time that thought, when I tried something on in a change room and something didn't look right, every time that negative thought crossed my mind, I had awareness. And really that is the key to success, I feel, is like the first step is awareness. So I had awareness of all those negative thoughts, and then I would just hit them back with a positive thought. Yeah, but you know what? I am this. I am this. And I started to do I am statements because I feel like those are really powerful, and affirmations and things like that. And so I genuinely started to fall in love with, you know, I love the bump on my nose. It distinguishes me. I absolutely love my smile. When I see my smile on my 3 little boys, and they all have it, and they also all have my cowlick, it just lights me up because it is beautiful on them. And so I know it is beautiful on me too.
That's awesome. Can we talk, you mentioned that did you say you were a fitness model?
I did do some fitness modeling, yeah. So I did fitness competitions where you get on the stage, and then I got into photography, like fitness modeling as well.
So can you talk just a little bit about maybe like an insider's perspective of what it really takes to achieve that fitness model look, right? So, and I'm trying, I don't want to lead you into a certain response, but I think a lot of folks have uh, an assumption that it's easy to look that way if you're born a certain way. All you have to do is 1,000 sit-ups a day. There's some kind of like a shortcut way to achieve that look. Can you just talk a little bit about the truth? Like, what does it take to achieve a fitness model look?
Absolutely, I can talk about that.
Just a little, just a little.
So yeah, sure. It's darn hard work. I will say that.
Yeah.
I as much as I had a negative experience in the world of fitness competitions, I do not, excuse me, by any means negate the amount of dedication, discipline, and determination that fitness competitors, fitness models, bodybuilders put into the efforts to get on stage and be stage ready. And it's restrictive with food. And when I say restrictive, I mean like very regimented, very rigid with food intake, and it's very structured. So they're living a certain way for a long period of time because they need to get their body to a certain level of leanness. And the amount of discipline that goes into the workouts is extremely intense. Like I'm talking hours a day of, heavy lifting and intense cardio, especially towards the end, a lot of cardio. So it's hard work, definitely, to look that way. And it's hard to sustain it as well.
That was going to be my next question is, can you do it year round? Why or why not?
I couldn't do it year round. For me personally, I felt like I was living on a diet all the time. And maybe that's why I'm so anti-diet now. But I felt like I was constantly saying no to the Thanksgiving meal, and no to the pumpkin pie, and no to the Christmas dinner, and no to the birthday cake this time. And for me, that's no way to live. I feel like there's a nice middle road balance somewhere in there. But some fitness competitors, this is what they do, this is what they love, this is how they live, and they're living that way. For me, it just was not the lifestyle for me. I couldn't sustain it. I actually became very unhealthy trying to sustain that level of leanness.
There was a documentary a long time ago. I think it was Body for Life by Bill Phillips.
Yes.
Are you old enough to remember that?
I was a Body for Lifer.
Well,
yes.
In the documentary, if I remember correctly, they showed Bill Phillips visiting different venues and looking at different like bodybuilding competitions and stuff. And at one point, he turned to the camera and he said, "Let's go, because this isn't about health. This isn't about living a healthy life." And he was referring to, the guys and the girls posing on stage. So can you talk just a little bit about, you're saying if you go too far one way, it's not necessarily the healthy way to live, and you felt unhealthy. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So I felt like, just interesting enough, I felt like not only was I on a diet all the time, but when we are very, very restrictive with our food, we lack essential nutrients that are needed in our diet. And sometimes it doesn't matter what you supplement with it. If you're not getting enough, you're not getting enough. And for me, I had an extreme B12 deficiency from the decreased amount of carbohydrates coming into my diet. And that B12 deficiency led to an iron deficiency, which over time actually started to literally affect my heart. I had to go to the doctor and get the heart Hollister on to monitor because my heart was skipping beats and I was just completely nutrient deficient. And all the while, I'm sending a message to my clients as I'm working in a gym that this is healthy. And so the mixed messaging is what really aggravates me now on this side as I live in a healthier side, because it looks like health to people. They automatically think six-pack, shoulders, biceps, toned legs is healthy. And what we don't always think is like the person on the stage maybe didn't use the healthiest means to get there. I remember backstage, there were girls that, you know, did not eat for days and weeks. They were just not consuming food. So there's extremes within it. Not everyone is like that. Some of the bodybuilders up there, you know, they're fueling right. I chose to eat because I could never not eat. That's not something I could do. But a lot of the girls were doing this and popping diet pills. That was just something normal backstage. I saw one girl was saying she's going to go out for pizza after this, and so she's got to get these in so that her, you know, it can burn more fat or whatever. So there's just a lot of unhealthy living happening, and to do that long term is just no way to live healthy.
It's ironic, isn't it?
It is. It is. It
Cool.
frustrates me because then, you know, the rest of the world sees that and they want to achieve that. And from my modeling days, what I saw was airbrushed, you know, like the photographer airbrushed me in about 5 seconds. He brought me from a size 6 to a size 2, shaved off my legs, you know, cut in my abs a little bit more. So it's what we see is not real, first and foremost. And so then it's not attainable, right?
Right.
And even if it is real, even if this person has gotten there, you know, it's just not healthy for a female to be at a, you know, 10% or 5% body weight or body fat percentage, right? It's just not a healthy place to live.
Interesting. And this is a whole, maybe we'll get into this in another episode, because I know that's like a whole other rabbit hole. And it's the same thing. It happens in the yoga realm as well. And David Swinson talked about this. I attended a workshop with him earlier in the 21st century. And he was talking about the way even the yoga realm or the fitness realm works is they have scouts who will scour the globe to look for you beautiful, beautiful people, guys or girls, 10,000 of them. They'll round them up around the world. Then out of those 10,000, that whittles down to about a dozen. And from those dozen, it whittles down to about 4 or 5. And then those 4 or 5 get the best photographers, the best lighting, the best makeup, and Photoshop. And so when you think about it, like the odds of you attaining that look is like, it's next to impossible unless you're going to get photoshopped or airbrushed. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your insight with us. Tell me a little bit about the book that you wrote recently.
I would love to. So I do touch on loving yourself in the book. But the book stems from we started a program for busy moms simply because I am a busy mom. And I learned the hard way after I had my 3rd child that moms cannot pour from an empty cup, and no one can, right? Nobody can pour from an empty cup. But I learned the hard way. I think when we are running around giving and giving and giving to everyone else and neglecting ourselves and, you know, meeting everyone else's needs and shelving our own needs, eventually you will crash. You cannot live that way healthily. That's just not a healthy way to function. And so for me, that basically led to what I call an epic mommy meltdown that unfortunately I think my oldest son will never forget, whereby I had to call my husband home early from work and have him come and look after the kids while I was just basically crying about life on the bathroom floor. And when he came home, he asked me one very important question. He looked me in the eyes and he said, "What do you need?" And for the first time in my life, I was like, wow, I never thought of that. I have no idea what I need. And from that, we started to build, we worked together to get me what I needed. So every day I started to ask, what do I need first? You know, just 5 minutes of meditation or quiet time, or just 5 minutes to sit and enjoy my tea without any noise or without anyone to serve or run after. And I started to build on that. What do I need today to be healthy? I know that exercise helps me mentally, not just physically. And so it was very important that I incorporated exercise into that. I was living off of toddler leftovers and coffee for too long. And so I started to ask myself, you know, like, what does my body actually need? I know this stuff, but it's different when you're on this end, you know, catering to everyone else. And so I started to sit down and have healthy meals for myself and just prioritize myself. And so we took everything that basically I say brought me back home, because mom was not home. Mom was not healthy. Mom was a second-rate version of herself. And we poured it into a program called the Switch Project. And to date, it's about almost a year the program's been running. We've helped almost 500 families live healthier, 500 moms live healthier. And so I took everything that we've integrated into this program and that I experienced in my own life, and I poured it into this book called Making the Switch.
Awesome. So the book's called Making the Switch.
Yes.
It's coming out in February. Is that correct?
It is. We're going to do a soft launch in February, and then we plan to have it in mom's hands for Mother's Day in May.
Okay. And you'll let me know when it's available so I can update any links in this podcast to get people to it?
Absolutely will.
Will it be available on Amazon and stuff like that?
It will be, I believe the Kindle version will be available on Amazon, and then there will be a website that you can go to order directly, which will be makingtheswitch.ca.
Okay.
That will be up and running.
Great. So this is going to be, well, how about instead of me theorizing what the contents of the book are, why don't you just give us like what does the table of contents look like?
Yeah, so literally like the first chapter talks about my epic mommy meltdown and how moms are turning to coffee and alcohol to cope with just the demands of life, but also the demands that come when you put yourself last. And essentially in chapter number 1 is loving yourself first. Mm-hmm. And if you were to ask me, like, what is the number one most important thing to do to live healthier, I would say it has to start with the foundation of your mind. What goes on between here and here is what is going to sustain you long-term for success or failure. So we got to get our mind right. And what does that mean? That means we exercise because we love ourselves, not because we hate ourselves. We fuel our body well because we love ourselves, not because we're hating ourselves and so we're depriving ourselves of anything. So it starts with that foundation of you got to love yourself first, and here's how to do it. Excellent. And here's how I did it. Mm-hmm. And then we talk about the importance of integrating movement into your life. And for me, fitness, it doesn't have to be something that is hours a day. It can be 20 minutes, goes a very long way. And it doesn't have to be crazy intense all the time. It really, I feel, just has to be let's move more and sit less. And when we can do that integrate that into our life, we just feel better. Mentally, physically, all the benefits come. And there's a nutrition chapter that's called No More Toddler Leftovers. The importance of integrating real food, right?
No more Cheerios and chicken fingers.
Exactly. Like no more when you're cleaning the plates from your little ones, that's what you get. No way, you deserve a gourmet meal, Mom. So it's time to get it. So I talk about never dieting again and how that completely ruins your metabolism. There's too many diets out there. They're coming in waves all the time. And it's not the way to do it. The way to do it is eat real food, right? Eat when you're hungry. Stop eating when you're, satisfied, not full. And just being mindful of what your nutritional habits are. We don't eat because we're tired or stressed. We eat because our body needs fuel and we're hungry. So just back to basics with the nutrition. And then the last chapter, which I feel is almost the most important one, is progress, not perfection. Yeah. And I think that this is kind of where the world gets it a little bit wrong with fitness. And it's why people tend to they slash all 4 tires when they have one flat one, right? I had one bad day or one not good meal. And so I'm done. Well, so what if you had something not so healthy? There's a future here. Let's make a good, healthy choice the next time. Let's focus on looking back. What kind of progress have you made so far? And this can be anything. This can be in fitness. Like maybe you couldn't touch your toes before and you're getting closer. That's progress. Maybe you can't touch them yet, but we're closer than we were yesterday. So it's all about just measuring back rather than focusing on what you are not yet. That's essentially everything. I think it talks. I've integrated my story in there. My husband and I have been through quite a lot of stuff for the youth that we are, right?
Oh, yeah. That's a whole other podcast.
That's a whole other podcast. So I've integrated all of that and just bringing it always back to the importance of we put our own oxygen mask on first, and then we help everyone that needs and loves us.
Excellent. Great. Now, we talked about this a little a little bit before we started recording. Usually when I have a guest on, I'll ask them, and most of my guests have been my age or older, and I'll ask, if you could speak to your 30-year-old self and your 30-year-old self would listen, what would you tell your 30-year-old self to pay attention to in order to be healthy and mobile and pain-free in their 50s? You're in your 30s. So we're going to reverse that a little bit. If this were a time capsule and someone dug this up out of the earth and they found you and they said, look, Alison, here it is. Here's what your advice was 20 years ago. What 3 things would you hope your 50-year-old self remembers to stay healthy, balanced, mobile, and pain-free?
The number one, I would say slow down. Slow down. We're all rushing and racing and going too fast. And by slow down, I mean let's take some time in our life to integrate yoga or relaxation or something restorative for not just our physical body, but also our mind. We don't get enough of this at all. Even asking 5 minutes a day is difficult. So I think it's so important that we slow down, we relax our body, and we take that time to restore it, because there's so much stress that is coursing through us and we're on, autopilot a lot of the times. And when we slow down, we can be mindful. We can take that time to just be aware of our breath and appreciate everything that we have. That would be number one.
Okay.
Number two, I would say gratitude is the foundation for so much success in your life. It's when I tell people love themselves more, if we can focus on being grateful. If you have legs, be grateful for the legs that you have. Be grateful for the breath that you get. I just got over a cold, and it was a chest cold, and I was so grateful when I could finally breathe again, right? We take so much of this for granted until it's gone. We need to be thankful for it while we have it. And everyone can find something to be thankful for. We know it's so good for our brain. It washes our brain with energy is what I tell people, and it's so true. It does. So gratitude is so important. And the last one is balance. It's very important that we realize, our nutrition needs to be balanced. It's fantastic to eat healthy, but it doesn't have to be all the time. And we don't need to feel stress when we make an unhealthy choice. I like my glass of wine and my chocolate almonds once in a while. That's my thing. Whatever your thing is, have it, just don't have it all the time, right? So live balanced. And this applies for exercise as well. I think if you can find a nice balance between, the intensity and that restorative relaxation, you're going to be so much more successful in life.
Excellent. So number one, we'll just round it up and say, do yoga.
Sure. Yes. I'm a huge proponent of it. Absolutely.
Number two is be grateful.
Yes.
Which is awesome. Find something. There's something for which to be grateful every second of every day. It can be hard. Sometimes you got to dig down. But it was sort of like what John Lennon said, if there's life, there's hope, right? So just even being alive is enough for which to be grateful.
Yes.
And 3 is be balanced. And it's not just balancing out the workouts from a rest day to a hard core, high intensity thing. It's have a cheat meal once in a while. Don't feel so restricted. You don't have to be like super healthy all the time, but you shouldn't be super junk foodish all the time either. Is that correct?
That's correct. And same with exercise, right? Like, let's not sit all the time. Let's move our body as much as we possibly can. Find that balance as well, because some of us have lives that we have to sit, but let's move our body the way it was designed to be moved.
I got you. Now, when it comes to nutrition, if we can take 2 steps back,
Sure.
My wife has found like the 80-20 principle works really well for balance and nutrition. If you're eating well 80% of the time, you've got a little wiggle room for that 20% of the time when you want to have the red wine and the chocolate covered almonds or whatever. Do you have a winning ratio for balance?
I totally believe in the 80-20 rule.
80,
I think that's the winner. Sometimes I like to set the bar a little bit higher and say 90-10 because I find people will revert back to 20.
Yeah.
So let's just
Yeah.
give you a little bit higher and get you in that nice sweet spot of 80-20. But I feel like that is the one. It's so important to just, take the chains off, not walk around on a diet, not walk around saying no to birthday cake with your family. I think especially as a mom, it sends a message to our children when we are constantly in that 80 and never in that 20. So if we can just show our children, sometimes we go to McDonald's or whatever that is for you, but we just don't go there all the time because that's not the healthiest way to live.
Right. Awesome. Great. Is there anything else you would like to add before we bring this to a close?
I think that's it. I think
That's
if I could just say one last thing,
please.
it is find the way to love yourself. And from that, you're going to take care of yourself. You're going to exercise. You're going to eat healthier because you love yourself. You're going to put yourself first.
That's awesome. And what's y'all's website? Where can people, you have blogs up, I'm sure. You have blogs?
We actually don't. We just took our blog down, actually. That's all right. But we do have a website.
Okay.
It is www.newstudio.ca. So you can catch us there. And it's also thefitswitch.com will get you to us as well.
And where are you located thereabouts?
We are located in Listowel, Ontario, Canada.
Awesome.
And we are online for busy moms for sure. So we can help you anywhere.
So if someone were interested in the Busy Moms program, they could go to one of those two sites?
Yes.
To learn more? Okay.
They can go to, theswitchfitness.com.
Theswitchfitness.com.
You got it.
Or
newstudio.ca.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, make sure you get the CA correct because I mess up on that one too. Awesome. Well, thanks a million, Alison. It was great to have you on our podcast, and thank you for sharing so much valuable information.
Thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.